Hello, everyone, and warmly welcome to this webinar on relationships and positive psychology. My name is Pauliina Piippo. I'm the co-founder of Joilla, and tonight I have the privilege to talk to you about this very interesting and also, I think, maybe challenging topic, because during these past few years, when we've been living through this very exceptional time in the pandemic, relationships are something that I'm sure many of us also have had different challenges with already, because we haven't been able to see each other, be in physical contact in the same way as before. And maybe right now, when the world is opening up again, at least here in Finland, we're opening up again, people might be thinking, okay, so how do I interact with people, and how was this done again? So I'm happy to be here to talk to you about this topic tonight. And if you have any questions, any comments, please feel free to share them in the chat, because I'm sure that all of us have different kinds of experiences that we might want to share with each other tonight, so that we also can learn from each other. And I also want to let you know that here tonight we have online two other team members from Joilla. We have Juha and Taru in the chat, also helping you out and picking up questions from there. So please feel free to ask any questions or add any comments in the chat. And it would be lovely to hear, while we are starting up and checking that everything is working, it would be lovely to hear from where around the world you are attending tonight, because we've had already a few webinars in English. I myself am situated in Helsinki in Finland, but we've had a few webinars in English and people from a little bit around the world. So I would love to hear from where you are attending this session tonight. Yes, so please feel free to write in the chat and also to say hello, so that we will make sure that the technical side is working here. So here we have Tiina from Tampere, from Finland. Welcome, Tiina. Happy to have you here. Tampere is my home city, so it always warms my heart when we have people in the audience from Tampere. And then we have somebody from Germany. Wow, warmly welcome. We have Helsinki. And quite a lot of Helsinki, Espoo, so here close to me, and we'll warmly welcome everyone. Then we have Siiri from Ivalo, so from the north of Finland, warmly welcome as well. Then we have Eila from Norway, and then we have Vineet from Scotland. Warmly welcome to all of you guys. And we have Tampere again, and Helsinki, and so on. So now I can see that the chat is working as well, and as I said, feel free to ask any questions or add any comments there, and we will pick them up and try to answer all of your questions. All right, so tonight our topic is relationships and positive psychology. And relationships is something that has been studied quite a lot in psychology in general, but also in the field of positive psychology. And as I mentioned before, this is maybe also an area that has been quite challenged during these past few years in these very exceptional times. But when we planned this webinar, we decided to pick kind of positive aspects of relationships. So we have handpicked 3 tools that we're going to go through, or I'm going to go through tonight. And all of these tools are ways that you can strengthen your relationships and build positive and thriving or flourishing relationships. So we wanted to pick these kinds of topics for tonight. And before I take off my slides, I just want to do a short little visualization exercise to kind of get us started or get us in the mood of this topic. So if it feels okay, you can close your eyes, or then you can maybe just bring your gaze to some I would say calm spot and concentrate on this little exercise. So bring to your mind some experience, some top experience from your life. Something or a moment, a situation where you have felt really happy, flourishing, everything has been going really well, and maybe you've experienced positive emotions in that moment. So pick one top moment from your life that comes to your mind right now. And there might be several different options coming to your mind, but just pick one of those and concentrate on that image and on that situation for a little while. And try to bring that situation to your mind as lively and as clearly as possible. So like you would almost be living that situation again. And then you can take a little look around and see what is happening around you. What can you see around you? And what kind of emotions arise in this moment? And maybe you can take a little deep breath and just enjoy this memory of this happy moment for a little while. And then slowly you can open your eyes and return to this present moment. And I have a question for you guys. So I'm going to take up this poll, and I'm interested in hearing for how many of you were there other people present or related to this top moment that you were just thinking about. So I'm going to start this poll here. You should be seeing it there on your screen. So were other people related to this top moment that came to your mind right now? And I can see that we have some answers coming in. I'm going to let them come for just a little while. For example, the moment that came to my mind was this moment from last summer when we were at the summer house of my spouse, and we had friends over. We were enjoying this really beautiful summer day. It was like 29 degrees or something warm, and the sun was shining, and we were on this beach just enjoying our day with our friends. And then in the evening we had this band that came and played, and it's on a small island, this cottage, so it was really quite like our own mini summer festival, and such a great memory, maybe the best day of last summer that came to my mind. And if you feel like it, please feel free to share what kind of moment came to your mind in the chat as well. I would love to hear about your top moments. And now I can see that quite many of you have answered this poll already, so I will end it and you will see the result. So actually 92% of you answered that this top moment was somehow related to other people, and 7% said it wasn't. And of course that's very okay as well. But the point here is that often in these top moments in our lives, other people are somehow involved. And other people really matter. This is one of the founding fathers of positive psychology called Christopher Peterson. He once stated that other people matter. And I think that's a really, really great quote from him. And that's so true, because there are many studies showing now that relationships might actually be the most important thing related to your well-being. So the most important thing in your life is to be able to create these thriving, good relationships to other people, and find ways to cherish these relationships as well. And that's why we are talking about this topic tonight. But thank you so much for answering this poll. And I have a few answers here in the chat about your top moments as well. Thank you very much for those. Vinith said it was your wedding day. Wow, I'm sure that is probably for surely something that can stay as this beautiful memory of a top moment in your life. So thank you for sharing that. And then Judith says the home birth of my son 31 years ago. Wow, that's for sure something that really can stay as a top moment as well. And it's been 31 years ago. It's 31 years ago, but you probably still can remember it very well. So thank you for sharing that. And Taru says, seeing my boyfriend after a long time last summer. Thank you, Taru, for sharing. That must have been a great moment as well. And Otis says, my daughter was born 2008. She was so beautiful and had golden hair, and everybody on the hospital wanted to see her unique hair. Oh, thank you. That's so cute. And Raya says, when I took care of several difficult consular cases. Thank you. That must have been maybe moments where you really need to use these relationship skills in many different ways as well. Thank you for sharing that one. And then Jenny says, the day my friend became my first girlfriend by asking if she could kiss me. Oh, thank you. Thank you, everyone. And here we can see, well, all of these examples were related to other people, and they can be really different ones, like big events like a wedding or the birth of your child, or maybe something smaller as well. Thank you all for sharing. And now I will take up my slides, but as I said, keep the comments coming and questions coming, and I will take a look at the chat every once in a while, and I also have my helpers helping me out with the chat there as well. But let's take up our presentation for tonight. And let's see where I can find it. Now it looks a little bit interesting here. I cannot see it right away, so I think I have to get it up from my computer. But if you have any questions, any comments regarding the topic, then please feel free to add them in the chat. I'm sorry for this inconvenience. Let's see if I can take it out from this other place here. Just a little moment. Slide presentation, and yeah. All right. So I think I should get it from here. All right. So now I can start presentation. Yes, and I hope you can see the slides now. All right, so please let me know in the chat if you can see the slides. It's always a little bit exciting when there are some technical difficulties, but I'm happy it seems to be working now. But as I mentioned, relationships is something that has been studied quite a lot, for example, in positive psychology, but psychology in general. And thank you, Emmy and Juha, everything is working well. And here I have a quote from George Vaillant, who is a psychiatrist and professor at Harvard Medical School. And he has taken part in one of the, I would say, most extensive researches done regarding well-being. This was a study. It's quite exceptional because it was a longitudinal study, and the study followed almost 300 men for 75 years. So for a very long time, these men were followed, and they were studied in many different ways. And the point of the study was to find out what affects their well-being. And they were using all these physical ways of examining, and also psychological measures, social measures, and so on. And the number one finding from this study was that our relationships are actually the most important thing affecting our well-being. And as he says here in this quote, that our relationships with other people matter, and matter more than anything else in the world. They were, for example, also examining how smoking affects your well-being and all these kinds of physical aspects. But positive relationships was the number one thing that stood out from this study. So that's why we are talking about a very important topic tonight. And once again, my name is Pauliina Piippo. Maybe every one of you didn't hear my short introduction in the beginning. And I'm a master of applied positive psychology. So we're going to talk a lot about positive psychology studies and so on tonight. And I'm also the co-founder of Joilla. And just a few words about Joilla. If our company is new to you, we are a training and consultancy company representing the third wave of positive psychology. And this means that we are also really interested in how we can, on maybe a larger scale, in groups and organizations, bring forward positive psychology and create flourishing workplaces, for example, or flourishing communities, flourishing countries, and so on. And we have introduced a wide-ranging opportunity to study positive psychology in Finland. And we are now currently the most popular trainer in positive psychology in Finland. And we have thousands of satisfied customers. And also we, for example, organize these kinds of free webinars. And I'm really happy to have you here online tonight with me. And we have delivered positive psychology methods and information for tens of thousands of people. And this makes it really meaningful to do this work because in this way we are trying to make the world a little bit better. And we have several training options available. And at the end of this session tonight, I'm going to just really briefly talk to you a little bit more about these options. And here you can see our vision at Joilla. We want to create a thriving future, and we believe that we can create it together. And here you can already see the importance of relationships and the importance of other people, because I truly believe that we can achieve much more when we are working together, collaborating, bringing everybody's strengths together instead of doing something just on our own. And our vision is to make the world a more thriving place. We want to spread reliable, researched information and tools regarding holistic well-being to both individuals and organizations and groups. And as stated here, everything that I'm going to go through tonight as well is based on researched information, and that is one thing that is also really important to us. So what's on the menu today, and what are we going to talk about? I'm going to first just briefly discuss positive psychology, because I think for some of you it might already be more familiar, but some of you might be new to the topic of positive psychology. So I'm just briefly going to talk about that. And then we're going to go through 3 ways to strengthen relationships. So I really want to give you these, I would say, practical tools that you can take with you from this webinar and put into action. And I'm also going to talk about some background and research information regarding these topics. And again, as I said, please feel free to share your thoughts, share questions, and so on. And at the end of the webinar, I have also reserved some time for answering questions. And if you want to share any thoughts, any ideas that come up during this webinar, please feel free to do that on social media, for example. And you can find us on Instagram with the handle JoillaFi, JoillaFi, and then you can also use the hashtag Joilla. And also, if you want to connect with us on LinkedIn, you can find me with my name, Pauliina Piippo, for example. I'm happy to connect with all of you guys. And of course, you can also find Joilla on LinkedIn. So happy to connect with all of you guys there as well. So just shortly, actually, I'm going to put up another poll just to find out, because I'm curious to hear how familiar you are with positive psychology. So now the poll is up again, and you can answer if you are very familiar or somewhat familiar or not at all, or not yet familiar with positive psychology, because after this webinar, you will be a little bit more familiar with positive psychology. So now I can see some answers coming in again. And I can see that most of you are somewhat familiar with it. Just gonna wait a little bit. It's still, some answers are still coming in there. Right, okay, and now I will end the poll and share the results with you guys. So 57% of you are somewhat familiar with positive psychology, so that's the biggest group. And then we have 37% of you that are familiar with it, and 4% that are not yet familiar. So as I said and promised, you will be a little bit more familiar after this webinar. So here, very, very simply explained, positive psychology can be explained using this kind of line that I have here on this slide. A line that goes from -10 to +10, and we have languishing on the minus side and flourishing on the plus side, and in the middle we have 0 and kind of the normal state. And I would say traditionally, clinical psychology has focused quite a lot on this minus side of the scale. And there's a good reason for it, because, for example, if you think about these big world wars that we had in the beginning of the 20th century, a lot of traumatized people, a lot of need for curing different kinds of mental illnesses. So if we think about this minus side, if you have anxiety, depression, or some other mental illness, you are somewhere on this minus side of the scale. And psychology already, there is quite a lot of information regarding this side, like how we can diagnose these kinds of mental illnesses, how we can even treat them. But until, I would say, maybe a little bit over 20 years ago, there wasn't actually that much studied and researched information regarding this plus side of the scale. So thinking about how we can build thriving relationships and how we can find meaning in life, how we can be happy, how we can use our strengths and so on. These kinds of topics hadn't been very much researched. Of course, there were some studies done, but not very much. So we didn't really have these kind of theories or tools for building and strengthening our flourishing. And that's kind of funny, because if you think about it, I would ask you, what do you hope for yourself or for the people that are close to you, for your loved ones? What kinds of things are important to you? You would probably say something like you want to be happy, or you want to live a meaningful life, you want to flourish, you want to have good relationships and so on. But until about 1998, this area, this plus side of the scale, hadn't been that much studied. So we couldn't say that we had that much research back ways of strengthening our flourishing. But fortunately, positive psychology started around 1998. And after that, I would say there's been quite an explosion in these kinds of studies. So these kinds of topics are studied more and more, and not just under the umbrella of positive psychology, but for example, in medicine and other fields of psychology and so on. So we are getting more and more research-backed information on how we can build flourishing for individuals and groups and so on. But I also want to add that if we think about these past almost 2 years that we've been living in this pandemic times, that has challenged all of us. And I think there was an interesting article in the New York Times. This researcher called Adam Grant was writing that quite many of us are actually maybe around this 0 area and languishing a little bit, because our lives have been challenged and changed so much. So there's quite a big need for these kinds of tools to strengthen our well-being. And I would say that the biggest thing that positive psychology has brought me is ways to cope in these difficult situations, ways to cope with my negative emotions, and ways to find a little bit of hope in these challenging times, and ways to strengthen my resilience. But this was a really short and simple explanation. And here we have another definition of positive psychology. Positive psychology is the study of human well-being, strengths, resources, and how to promote them. So strengths, that's one big area of study in positive psychology, and well-being, of course. And also positive psychology studies practical ways on how to promote all of these things, and how to promote flourishing. So I'm going to give you 3 practical tools tonight as well. And here you can see Joyla's frame of flourishing. So actually, when we were studying with my co-founder Netta Lehtonen, who is the other founder of Joilla, we studied positive psychology at the University of East London. And after studying, we really wanted to find some good way of delivering these amazing tools that had helped us a lot. And for example, for me, given very many ways to clarify my own values and find my strengths and strengthen my relationships and so on. So we wanted to find a way to bring these practices and tools to other people. And through this, we ended up creating Joilla's frame of flourishing. And there are many researchers and research I would say backgrounds that we have built this model upon. So Martin Seligman is one of the people whose studies can be found, or we have built this model upon. And also many of our professors at University of East London, for example, Kate Heffron and Tim Lomas and Itai Ibzan and so on. So we were very much inspired of all this research that we had learned about and ended up creating this frame of flourishing. And the frame of flourishing consists of 6 areas. And because we're talking about relationships tonight, I want to emphasize that actually all of these areas are also related to our relationships. And the first area that we can find here on the top is positivity. And positive psychology has been studying the positive effects of positive emotions, but also it studies the effect of negative emotions. And actually, I don't even want to talk about negative emotions that much. I rather use the term uncomfortable emotions, because even though they don't feel that good, they might give me really important information about myself or my surroundings and so on. So that is one area of the frame of flourishing. The next area is engagement. And this is related to strengths, and knowing your strengths and finding ways to use them. And this can lead to up to 6 times more engagement when you know your strengths and you find ways to use them. And strengths are actually also very well related to relationships, because often when we are being with other people, spending time with other people, we can in those moments use our strengths in many ways. And also we can understand other people better when we understand what their strengths are. And also about the area of positivity, of course, that is very much related to relationships, because often we can feel both those wonderful positive emotions, but also the uncomfortable emotions when we are with other people. And then we have the area of relationships. So of course, that is one big area of the frame of flourishing, and actually, according to research, the most important area. And this has to do with authentic and meaningful connections and how we can build them. And that's the topic we are especially concentrating on tonight. Then we have the area of meaning, so finding meaning in work, finding meaning in life in general, and that's actually also very much related to the area of relationships, because often if we are, for example, doing some kind of work that has a positive effect on other people, that usually brings us meaning to our work. And I would say very many of us do this kind of work, but we don't always see the effect that we have on other people. So these two are very much related to each other, the meaning part and the relationship part. Then we have the area of accomplishment. So achieving your goals, having resilience, and these kinds of topics are related to accomplishment. And also one of my favorite topics, which is called self-compassion. And I want to actually give all of you guys a tip, because even though tonight we're concentrating on these more positive aspects of relationships and how to strengthen and nurture good relationships, very many of us have probably also, for example, during this pandemic time, felt kind of not enough and had maybe challenges with being a little too demanding towards ourselves. ourselves. And we did a webinar on the topic of self-compassion last year, and we have that webinar. You can find it from our website, so you can watch the replay of that webinar if you're interested in knowing more about the topic of self-compassion. And then last but not least, we have the area of vitality. So here we are talking about the mind-body connection and health, which is also very much related to relationships, because I think all of us can maybe recognize these times that if you haven't slept well enough, or you haven't really eaten, or you're not feeling very well physically, that might really affect how you are with other people as well. But this was a short introduction to this frame of flourishing, and now we're going to go through these 3 tools for strengthening relationships. So one more comment, Niina Sajaniemi and Jukka Mäkelä, who are both Finnish. Niina is a special psychologist and Jukka Mäkelä is a child psychiatrist and psychotherapist. And they have stated that positive psychology can be described as the psychology of an accepting connection. So relationships and connection is really at the heart of positive psychology and of this field. And the first tool that we're going to talk about tonight is micro moments of love. And some of you might be familiar with this, and for some of you this might be completely new, and you might be thinking, okay, what does that mean? And maybe usually when we talk about love, you might think about maybe romantic love or have specific images coming to your mind. But this is a little bit of a different point of view regarding love. So Barbara Frederickson is one very famous and accomplished scientist in the field of positive psychology. She's a professor of psychology and neuroscience at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and she has been studying positive emotions and especially also the emotion of love in the context of relationships. So she has stated that love is the micro moment of warmth and connection that you share with another living being. And actually, her interpretation of love, first of all, it comes from combining the science of emotions and the science of relationships. And as you might know, emotions, they come and go. And in the same way, these micro moments of love that she has been studying, they come and go as well. And actually, really simply put, a micro moment of love means that you are sharing a positive emotion and a moment of connection with another person or another living being. Actually, they have even found these kinds of connections between animals and between pets and humans as well. But maybe I will open this up through an example as well. So maybe you also have experienced these kinds of situations, and you can experience this with strangers as well. They don't have to be someone you know or someone you love in that kind of a traditional point of view. So to my mind comes the situation when we were giving a training in Tampere, in my hometown, and we actually gave out this assignment to our group that we sent them out to do these random acts of kindness. And that's also actually one good exercise you can do if you want to strengthen relationships. You can go and perform random acts of kindness to other people. But in this case, we then ourselves also wanted to do a random act of kindness, and we went to this cafe. And then we thought, okay, so we might do this kind of an act that we're going to pay the coffee or tea in advance for the next person that comes to the cafe. So we paid 2 coffees, and then we were just leaving the cafe, or like giving way to the next one in line. And then the cashier told them that, okay, these ladies here have already paid for your coffee. And there were 2 older gentlemen, And they were a little bit confused first, like what's going on, and why did these girls pay for our coffee? But then we kind of they realized the point, and they were really really grateful, and we shared this lovely warm moment there together, a moment of positive emotion and of connection. So if some kind of a situation comes to your mind right now, I would love to hear about that. So please feel free to share in the chat what kind of micro moments of love you have experienced lately, maybe. And the more scientific term for a micro moment of love is positive resonance, and it's a moment of warmth and connection. And sharing these positive emotions lead to expansion and construction. So Barbara Frederickson has created this broaden and build theory, which means that when you're in a positive emotional state, your mind broadens, and that can also build resources. And in these micro moments of love, that happens collectively and together. And your behavior might start synchronizing in that moment. Maybe your gesture starts synchronizing as well. And for example, a really easy way to kind of open up and find ways to find this positive resonance is to just look somebody in the eye. Maybe you start smiling, and that already might be a short moment of positive resonance. And in this moment, when you're feeling that, you kind of feel that you're almost like an extension of that other person, and kind of you're a mirror image or an extension of the other person involved. And Judith shares here that coffee donating is practiced in Italy too. Wow, thank you. That's nice to hear. I think it's not that normal in Finland, so I think that's why they were a little bit confused that what's happening here. But that's lovely to hear if that's like a tradition or a custom that you have there in Italy. Thank you for sharing. And here in the picture, we have this little baby and some adult there with him or her, and that's kind of a typical example that Barbara Frederickson gives of positive resonance. When you have this moment of connection with a little baby, you look them in the eye, and maybe they start smiling and you start smiling, and that's really a typical example of positive resonance. And here I also wanted to introduce you to this study that's been done during the COVID pandemic. It was done during the beginning of the pandemic, so April to November 2020, a bit over 1,000 participants. And the results of this study, because they wanted to investigate the importance of social relations during this pandemic, and they were investigating positive resonance. And the result was that positive resonance regulates the relationship between resilience and mental health. And resilience means how well and how quickly you can bounce back from these challenging circumstances. And here they found that positive resonance is actually really important and crucial regarding your resilience and your mental health. And the study suggests that high-quality social relationships play an important role in maintaining mental health during the COVID pandemic. And I love this quote from the researchers that says that relationships are like chocolate. Quality is more important than quantity. So mutual warmth, synchronicity, and positivity in interaction are crucial. And also, I think it's quite kind of comforting to know that you don't have to have a lot of different relationships. It's more important that you have maybe just a few quality relationships, and that is enough, and it's better maybe to, as they say here, to focus on the quality than on the quantity. So how can you create positive resonance? Here are a few ways. First of all, if you are interested in meditation or are an experienced meditator, you might be interested to hear that you can, for example, through practicing loving kindness meditation, you can kind of open yourself up to more of this positive resonance. And I really love these loving kindness meditations, because there you start. The idea is to awaken these positive emotions and compassion first towards people that are close to you, towards yourself as well, and then slowly you kind of spread out these emotions to the whole world. And there are different versions of this, of course, but if you're interested, you can just Google loving kindness meditation and you will find many different options. And then another way is just cherishing your social interactions. So actually, for example, when you are with other people, that you are present and you kind of open yourself up to these opportunities to create more positive resonance. And then one practical tool and a practical way is appreciative questions. And I'm going to go through that on the next slide. And last but not least is loving yourself. And that's also Barbara Frederickson also talks about this, that of course, that's always a good place to start, to find compassion and love for yourself. And when you feel compassion and love for yourself, it's easier to feel that towards other people as well. And here again, I remind you of the self-compassion webinar and the replay of that, because there you can find good tools for finding more compassion towards yourself. And here I can see some comments in the chat. Raya says, I gave 50 euros to my neighbor. He has 3 children. Oh, that's a really sweet, kind act of you, Raya. Very nice to hear that. And Tina says that my client and I didn't have such normal earrings. He had ice cream and I had books. It was a small connection. Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. They can be these kinds of small moments that you share with someone, but still they can, even after years, you can maybe remember these kinds of moments of connection. So here is the number one practical tool for you guys: appreciative questions. And by appreciative questions, I mean questions that are the point or the idea is to get somebody else to share something positive with you, a positive experience or something good that happened to them. So if I think about a situation where my spouse comes back from work and I ask him, for example, so how was your day? And he might answer, oh, it was okay, or it was good. And the conversation might end there. But if I ask him, for example, what was the best thing that happened to you today? Or what strengths did you use at work today? Or what did you accomplish today? Or something more specific that gives him the opportunity to share something good with me. Then there's a kind of a good opportunity to awaken positive emotions and share those emotions in that moment. Or for example, if you're talking to a friend or a coworker, you might ask them, so what are you looking forward this weekend? Or what was the best thing that happened to you last week? Or many different options here. And if you have some good questions that you use, or if some good questions come to your mind right now, please feel free to share them in the chat, because then we can also use and be inspired from other people's questions as well. But you can take a little moment and think about what kind of questions you could ask and who could you ask these questions of and when. So this is one really great tool that you can take with you and use in your own relationships to strengthen them. And then we move on to the next area, which is called active constructive responding. And that's another really practical way of strengthening your relationships. And first, just as a background, because I've been talking about or mentioned this pandemic quite a few times here, and even though I'm really happy that this situation is going in a better direction, still we don't know what will happen in the future, and as I said, it for sure has affected all of our lives. And this was a really interesting study done by some researchers at the University of Tampere here in Finland, and they were examining the psychological reactions caused by eye contact in different situations. So they were studying face-to-face situations, video to video, so here like a video call that they are having on this photo, and video only. And direct contact with another person during a video call caused similar emotional reactions as face-to-face, which is really interesting, that you can get really similar reactions, emotional reactions when you are on a video call than you can get when you are actually face-to-face with somebody. And I think this is quite a comforting thought during these times that we are living in. So it would appear that emotional responses could be similar in natural and video-mediated interactions. Of course, this is just one study, but this is a really interesting finding. So now we're going to talk about this active constructive responding, and it has to do with situations where somebody shares something positive with you, some good news with you. And maybe often when we think about these kinds of situations, you might maybe more think about how you react if somebody shares something not good with you, like bad news, and how you react in these kinds of situations. Maybe we have thought about this a little bit more. But actually, how we react to good news can affect this relationship quite a lot. And there we have a wonderful opportunity to strengthen and nourish that relationship. So if I think about an example where my spouse, I'm using him in this example again, but he comes home and tells me that he has been promoted at work. And if I'm answering in an active and constructive way, that means that I'm being genuine and enthusiastic and encouraging and maybe asking additional questions. And I'm giving him the opportunity to kind of relive that moment. And this might actually lead to this positive resonance as well. So in this case, I might be asking him more questions like, oh, that's wonderful, tell me more, and what kind of new work tasks are you going to do, or how does it feel, or how did that situation play out, and yeah, let's celebrate this in some way. So I would really give him the opportunity to share and to tell me more, and I would ask more questions and so on. Then we have other ways to respond as well. So the second option is active and destructive. And in this case, I would point out the downsides of the situation, or I wouldn't even allow space for the other person. I would belittle it, or I would steal the whole conversation. So for example, I would say something like, oh no, so this means that we won't be able to spend that much time together anymore, or are you going to be really stressed out and just working late evenings all the time? Or maybe I would steal the whole conversation and start talking about my own work or something totally different. And this would be an active and destructive approach, which is not recommended, doesn't do very good for the relationship. Then we have passive and constructive. So here we have maybe not a lot of encouragement and the energy level is quite low. So I might say something like, oh wow, congratulations. But then the situation would end there and the discussion would end there. And he wouldn't have the opportunity to share this whole experience with me. And this is something that I recognize that, especially if I'm not being present enough, this might happen. And sometimes I really need to I have started intentionally paying more attention to these kinds of situations. When somebody shares something with me, then I try to give the other person space to actually share the whole situation and the whole experience with me. And then the fourth option is passive and destructive. So this means that we ignore the whole topic and seem completely indifferent. I might just ask him something like, so what are we having for dinner tonight? Or just completely ignore the whole thing. And as you probably can guess, all of these, the number 2, 3, and 4, none of these are very good options. And number 1 is the one that we really should be aiming for, because as I said, these are really great opportunities for us to strengthen the relationships with the people around us. So here is the second mind gym. And actually, mind gym, I didn't mention this before, but we like to use this mind gym term when we share these different kinds of tools and exercises, because a little bit in the same way as you can take care of your physical body by going to the gym, or your physical health by going to the gym and maybe training on different equipment and so on, in the same way you can, and I highly recommend that it's a great idea, and you should take care of your mind in the same way as well. And similarly to the gym, you can also, with your mind, you can use a little bit different tools for exercising different areas of your mind, if you can say so. And one thing that is really important to keep in mind is that one size does not fit all. So always when, for example, we give out these different kinds of exercises, we find it very important for people to kind of listen to themselves and try to recognize what kind of exercise would work for you the best. So here we have 3 exercises in total, and you can maybe choose one of them to start with and experiment and see how it works for you. But the second tool is this active constructive responding. And in this case, you can ask a friend, a family member, co-worker, or other close person to share a good event from their life with you. And listen and be present and try to respond in an active and constructive way. So a few things to keep in mind when you do it. For example, having eye contact is a good idea. Keeping the conversation positive, commenting on it, on the good story or the experience, and asking more questions, and simply letting the other person relive that situation. So that is tool number 2. And here we have William James's beautiful quote that the deepest craving of human nature is the need to be appreciated. And responding actively and constructively is a very good way to do that. And now we move on to the third tool, which is shared laughter. And I really love it that this has been studied, and I'm going to share a few studies with you and really interesting findings as well. And here we talk about sharing laughter, so laughing together with someone. And one interesting thing is that actually we are more, it's more common for us to laugh when we are with other people than when we are by ourselves. But then again, if you think about a situation that you are not sharing laughter, maybe you are laughing at somebody, or maybe other people are laughing and you are not laughing, these situations might be a little confusing. You might think, okay, why are they laughing? Or are they laughing at me? Or what's going on? So here we are talking about shared laughter, that you together with other people are laughing at the same thing. And first of all, we have Victor Borge's quote here. He's a Danish-American comedian, and he has said that laughter is the shortest distance between two people. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in this comment, because even if you think about maybe some tougher situations in relationships, maybe you're having a difficult conversation at work or with your partner or something like that, if you find some ways to maybe laugh together, if you start laughing at something together, this usually lightens up the situation quite a lot. And then again, maybe some of my most fond memories are these kinds of situations where I am laughing together with other people, laughing with my friends and my close ones. And here are some benefits of laughter that have been found in studies. And there are physical benefits, mental benefits, and social benefits. So very many different benefits. Laughter can reduce your pain and even strengthen the immune system, which I think was quite an interesting finding. It's a muscle exercise and relaxation. Some of you might have maybe tried out this laughter yoga when you kind of really intentionally start laughing. It can improve your respiration and even accelerate your blood circulation. And mentally, it can reduce your stress, your anxiety, and depression. And of course, it improves your mood. It can increase self-esteem, optimism, energy, and vitality, and even improve your memory and creativity, which I think is quite fascinating. And then we have the social benefits, so improved interaction, more kindness, more helpfulness, and increased joy. And of course, laughter, as we probably all know, is highly contagious. So usually when somebody starts laughing, you might start laughing too. And here are a few interesting studies done regarding this shared laughter. The first study, in this case, they had couples come into a laboratory, and they studied the situations where the couples were asked to share a story of how they first met. And before that, they filled out these questionnaires, and they were telling the researchers how similar or how close they felt with the other person, with their partner. And of course, if you think about a situation where somebody starts telling how they first met, there might be some laughter involved in these kinds of situations. And the study found that shared laughter in a relationship is related to quality, intimacy, and social support. And the couples who were laughing more together, so sharing the laughter in this circumstance, also reported feeling more close to their partner. And then the second study was a study where they had people who did not know each other meet for the first time, and this was through a system online. So they didn't meet live; they met online. And they had three different kinds of situations. In one situation, people shared laughter together. Then there was another situation where they laughed, but they did not share the laughter. And the third situation was just having a nice moment together, but no laughter involved. And this study showed that shared laughter with an unknown person makes one experience a sense of uniformity and affection. And the people who had a situation where they shared laughter were more likely to want to meet that other person again, compared to these other situations. And then we have Manninen and his companions from Finland that have also found that laughing with others secretes endorphins, which may explain the positive effects of laughter on long-term relationships. So that's a really interesting finding as well. So the third and last tool for tonight is an exercise called 3 Funny Things. And this is adapted from maybe this kind of a traditional positive psychology exercise where you write about 3 things that you're grateful for, which is also a really good exercise. But this one is a little bit different. So here the point is to think about 3 funny things. So you might do this in the evening, for example, before you go to bed. You might write it down in your diary, or you might just think about it and have these 3 things come to your mind. And then also think about, why did these things happen? Because slowly when you start paying more attention to these funny things, you also start opening up to these kinds of situations better and noticing more of the funny things that happen around you. One funny thing for me was this morning, well, my partner, he has quite a good strength of humor, or it's a very lovely strength of his, and he was watching these squirrels that were running outside our house, and he was like, come and look at these squirrels, and they were just playing, and that was a really fun little moment we had in the morning. So as you can see, they can be these really just simple things that happen in your daily life. So this is the third tool for you guys tonight. And I want to end this section with Barbara Frederickson's wise words that flourishing is not a solo endeavor. Like I stated in the beginning of this webinar, relationships are maybe the most important thing regarding your flourishing and regarding your well-being. And I truly hope that all of you have gained some new tools or perspectives from this webinar on how you can strengthen and how you can cherish and nurture your own relationships, because we can affect the people around us, and the people around us, of course, affect us as well. So just as a short recap, we went through 3 tools for human relationships and strengthening relationships. We talked about these micro moments of love, and here the tool that I gave you was these appreciative questions. So through these questions, you get somebody to share something good that has happened to them and awaken positive emotions between you. And the second tool was active constructive responding. So how do you respond in that moment that somebody shares some good news with you? So actively and constructively. And the third topic was shared laughter, and here I gave you this exercise of 3 funny things. So writing down or thinking about 3 funny things that have happened to you during the day. And you can continue this, for example, for a week or for a couple of weeks and see how this affects you. So, sorry, I can feel my voice is starting to fade out a little bit. But now if you have any questions, I will take a look at the chat and see if we have questions here. And as I said in the beginning, I will also really shortly be sharing some points or some information about what we do at Joilla. And also we have another webinar in English coming up in April, and I will let you know the date here already so you can put it in your calendar, and I hope to see you there as well. But if you have any questions, please write them down in the chat, and I will go through this material and then take a look at your questions. So what we provide at Joilla, what kind of services? We help people, communities, and organizations to flourish. And we work online and, of course, face-to-face as well when needed. And we work in English, Finnish, and Swedish. But we are especially specialized in working online and have been doing this for very many years and have received very good feedback for our online courses and trainings as well. We have training programs and courses for individuals, and also we organize workshops and lectures, speeches, and other customized services for organizations. And we have these free webinars. And as I said, we've had webinars before already, and the replays of these can be found through our site at joilla.com/global. And just shortly, what kind of trainings we have? We have a training program in the basics on positive psychology, which is an introductory course in positive psychology. It lasts for 3 months, and it's currently offered in Finnish. Then we have the Positive Psychology Practitioner program, which is our flagship program, and it's a comprehensive well-being training program. And we organize it in collaboration with Finnish summer universities. It takes 8 months and currently also offered in Finnish. But we also have trainings coming up in English. And workshops, we are happy to organize these and organize different kinds of customized workshops for organizations. And here we can work both online and face-to-face. And then we work on many different topics related to positive psychology, such as strengths, resilience, and meaningful work. And of course, relationships, one great topic as well. And we can organize different lengths of workshops and lectures, and these are feasible at all levels of the organization, all the way to management. And we work in English and Swedish and Finnish. So, as I mentioned, we have an upcoming free webinar in English. We're going to talk about the science of positivity. So this was the first area of Joyla's frame of flourishing. So in the next webinar, we're going to concentrate on that and also maybe debunk some myths around positive psychology. Because positive psychology, it doesn't mean that you always have to be smiling and having positive emotions. So this we will talk more about on the 28th of April, and you are warmly welcome to join us then as well. And more info will be coming up on our website as well. So before we end here, thank you. I can see in the chat that some of you have already written some beautiful words here thanking me, and hope that we will be in touch. I hope that too. And have a wonderful spring, everyone there. But just before we end, I would like you to think about one good thing that was worth coming for tonight. So you can pick maybe one of these 3 tools, or just one thought that you will carry with you from this webinar. Maybe one thing that you will take into action and into practice. And if you want to share this one thing with me here in the chat, I'm very happy to hear that as well. So remember to save the date on the 28th of April for our next webinar on the science of positivity. And here we have a beautiful quote or comment from our student, Laura Bratz, who is a customer encounter coach at DNA in Finland. She has said that positive psychology training with Joyla gave me more than I expected. Theory and tools for my personal life and flourishing, and also tools to apply at work. The most fantastic thing was to understand that still, after 18 years of my coaching career, I can learn and realize new things that my coachees will benefit from a lot. And these warm words are always, so it always brings up a lot of positive emotions to read these kinds of words. So thank you once again, and I will check your questions now, but just as a reminder, you can find us at www.joyla.com. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram, and of course LinkedIn as well. And happy to connect with you further there. But now I will take down these slides and stop the presentation and check out this chat area once more. So let's see. Thank you guys, and thank you for being active and asking questions and giving out your comments. It is always a delight to be able to even learn new things from you guys. And happy to hear that this was a useful session, Raija. And Katina says that I love the 3 funny things. I will try that out with my children. Yes, that's really great. Lovely to hear that you will take this to your kids as well. Really thought-provoking. Thank you. Very lovely to hear that. And have a wonderful spring, all of you guys as well. And Judith has a really good comment here that I can imagine getting some negative responses to appreciative questions. I imagine some people not attuned may find them intrusive. That's a good comment, and I'm sure that if you start using this tool, then you will, I would say probably most often you will get a good response, but probably not always, because sometimes you never know what's going on in another person's life. It might be a bad moment, just that they got up from the bed with the wrong foot and had a bad start of the day, or some other reason. So if you get this kind of a bad response, then you might just think that, okay, this was not the right question for this person in this moment, but your intention was still positive. So then I would say that don't take it personally if somebody doesn't have a positive reaction in that moment, because sometimes we might be going through something that we really cannot have a positive reaction in that situation. But thank you, Judith. That was a really good point. And Maggie, we can maybe get back to your question here in just a second. And let's see if we have other questions. Thank you. Lovely positive energy. Thank you, Marjot. Thank you for your words, kind words. And Tina says, thank you. I can practice my English. Yes, that's great. I'm also practicing here with you. Connection of micro moments was new. That's nice to hear. And if you want to read more about that, then Barbara Frederickson has a book on that topic called Love 2.0, and that's in English only. I don't think it's available in Finnish, but if you want to practice your English, then you can read it in English as well. And Jasmine says, those 3 funny things to think before I go to sleep. Let's see what kind of dreams I will have. You might have some really great funny dreams. It's a good way to fall asleep. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your beautiful words. And Birgetta says that thank you very much for this lecture. Now I only need the relationship. Personally, I'm just happy that COVID starts fading and I finally can get as near as people I used to get. I'm a bit tired of hugging just myself. Thank you for sharing that, and I truly feel you and cannot imagine how hard this situation has been, for example, for people who are living by themselves, for example, and you might not have anyone but yourself to give a hug to. So that's why it's so comforting to see that at least now here in Finland, the situation is going towards a better direction. But maybe here, these studies that I shared regarding for example, how a video connection can bring up almost the same kinds of positive or emotional responses as a face-to-face connection. Maybe this can give us some comfort, even though I really know that nothing can completely for example, hugging another person is something that you cannot really completely, how do you say it? It's a different thing to hug another person than hug yourself, if I say it like that. And Raya says that I'm praying that I get more situations where I can laugh. As I am unemployed, I'm a bit sad. And thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable here with us. And this exercise is actually also kind of a good way to start noticing more of these funny things. They don't even have to be things where you're laughing your heart out or like a super strong emotional reaction. It works a little bit in the same way as these gratitude exercises, that even if you might find it really hard in the beginning to think about something that you're grateful for, slowly when you start doing this consistently every day, your mind and your brain starts to notice more of what's good around you. So that's the point with the gratitude exercise. And here with these 3 funny things, in a similar way, you might start noticing these funny moments a little bit more around you. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much, you guys. And I really hope to see you again in our next webinar. And wait, I'm just going to check out Maggie's question here. I think, Maggie, could you send us an email to info@joyla.com, then we can continue our discussion there. It would be lovely to continue the discussion with you. But thank you again, all of you, and I hope to see you in our next webinars or in some other circumstances, and have a lovely evening or a lovely rest of the day wherever around the world you are. Thank you for sharing tonight with me. Bye-bye.